Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining in today's workshop. I'm Harshita Suresh. I have been working here as a specialist psychologist for a couple of years now. I'll be the co host for today's workshop, whilst my colleague Shruti Soni will be facilitating it. This workshop will be recorded, so please ensure that you don't share anything personal if you don't want that to be recorded as well. I'd like to share a few ground rules that need to be followed for today. Please keep your cameras off and your mics muted. If you need to share anything or ask any question, please raise your hand so that the facilitator can attend to you one by one. Or you can even drop them on the chat box and she'll answer them. Please note that you aren't supposed to record the presentation nor take any pictures of the same. If you'd like to take notes, you're welcome to do so. Thank you again for joining in. We hope you benefit out of this. Over to you, Shruti.
Thank you, Arshita. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you for joining in for today's workshop. We will be exploring various insecurities, their signs, their causes, and how to deal with them as couples and as individuals too. I am Shruti Soni. I work at MindTribe as a trainee counselor under the guidance of Dr. Prerna Kohli. My areas of specialization are anxiety, self esteem issues, relationship issues, body image issues, as well as stress. I'm really excited to be hosting this workshop and truly grateful that each of you has taken the time to join us today. So let's get started and make this a great session together. So, here is the agenda for our workshop today. We'll be talking about the basics of insecurity, the signs of insecurity, how attachment style is related to insecurity, other causes of insecurity, as well as how insecurity affects people's mental health, how to address them, how to receive insecurity, and also things that you can follow. Okay, my voice is a bit low. Am I audible now properly? Okay, so yeah, thank you. And also certain trust building exercises that you can practice with your partner. Yeah, Monica, you had something to say? Okay. So now before we delve into the details of insecurity, I would like to ask you a question. What is one word that comes to mind when you think about insecurity in romantic relationships and why? Fear, yeah. No trust, okay. Low self esteem, absolutely. Unsafe feeling and manipulation, anxiety, not expressing, yeah, okay. Communication, absolutely. Family, jealousy. Thank you, everyone, for your responses. Absolutely. Fidelity, manipulation, fear. I'm seeing a lot of people mentioning fear and jealousy. We'll also be covering that. Sign that I feel insecure in a relationship is the constant fear. Absolutely. Yeah. Um, Jealous plus unsafe. Absolutely. So these are certain signs and causes of insecurity that we'll covering today. We'll be covering today. Next up, coming to the unpacking of the basics of insecurity. So everyone struggles with insecurity at some point in their lives. It is absolutely natural. So what is insecurity? It is a feeling characterized by uncertainty, self doubt, and fear. So, what does uncertainty do here? What is the role of uncertainty in insecurity? As you all know, life is unpredictable, it is uncertain. Relationships, how people behave, and what they think about us, it is all uncertain. It is critical to keep in mind that uncertainty isn't always a sign of a failing relationship. In relationship, there is always a certain amount of uncertainty as people grow and overcome obstacles together, face challenges together. The desire to have certainty makes sense. You want to know whether you're going to be hurt, you want to feel prepared. The problem is you can't know the future before it happens, no matter how much you think about it. And if this feeling goes beyond a point, it turns into an insecurity. Okay, so what about self doubt? Self doubt is pretty much self explanatory. It is when people doubt their worth in general, their capabilities, or their value in other people's, especially their partner's lives. In a relationship, it manifests as doubts about being worthy of your partner's love or support. If one partner holds on to harmful limiting beliefs like thinking they don't deserve love, they won't be able to trust completely. And trust is the foundation of any relationship. Next is fear. So, fear in a relationship, especially when one partner feels insecure, can show up in ways that stem from a deep need for connection and reassurance. This often can be seen as anxiety, where the partner constantly seeks validation to feel secure in the relationship. They may experience jealousy, as many of you mentioned, and it is not because of distrust all the time, but from a genuine fear of losing their loved one. Now, being clingy can emerge from a heartfelt desire for closeness, driven by the fear of abandonment. These behaviors, while challenging, come from a place of vulnerability and a deep seated fear of rejection or not being enough. So there are a lot of types of insecurities. There is self esteem, relationship, emotional, social, financial, and we'll be obviously talking about relationship insecurity here. Okay. So, how can you recognize insecurity in your relationships? What are the signs of it? So, we'll discuss it one by one. There are a lot of signs of insecurity in anyone in an insecure relationship. So, first is lack of trust. As I mentioned previously, the trust is the foundation of any relationship. In a romantic relationship, when one partner feels insecure, a lack of trust can often become a significant issue. This lack of trust isn't necessarily about the other partner's actions, but more about the insecure partner's internal fears and doubts. They might worry about being hurt or abandoned, which can lead to behaviors like checking their partner's phone, questioning where they were, their whereabouts, or feeling uneasy when your partner interacts with someone else. Right? So these actions stem from a place of vulnerability, a place for reassurance. If a person consistently doubts their partner's intentions, or they doubt that the partner might abandon them or the partner might leave them, they have trust issues. What we have to realize is that people are not born with these trust issues. They might have had negative experiences, be it as a child through their family members or be it through previous relationships, which makes them have these trust issues. Right? Second is need for constant reassurance. So at the start, we had discussed about uncertainty. We as human beings strive to gain certainty in our lives. We want to know what is going to happen. And how do we try to achieve that? By asking for constant reassurance from our partner. So, how does one seek reassurance? Either they constantly ask their partners if their partners still love them, or they ask them if they truly want to be with them. So it could look like constantly asking, are you mad at me? Do you think I'm attractive? Or you won't leave me, right? So these are the questions that the insecure partner could ask their partners for reassurance. Now, no matter how many times the partner tells you that they love you or that they would never cheat on you, they might not understand why you need constant assurance from them. And their assurance won't always be enough. And after a point of time, yeah, it is movie. It is about romantic relationships. Yes. After a time, it becomes very overwhelming for the couple. Now, people choose to engage in these actions even when they want to feel safe and at ease. Yet, it still strains their connection. The reassurance by a partner might not be enough because we are not focusing on the root cause. Now, the root cause could be low self-esteem, having an anxious attachment style, previous negative, relationship experiences, or a breach of trust in that relationship itself. Third is emotional distance. So, emotional distance in a romantic relationship often signals deeper issues of insecurity, creating a significant barrier between partners. When one partner feels insecure, they might withdraw emotionally, avoiding the intimacy that comes with sharing their true thoughts and feelings. This can manifest in various ways. They might avoid deep conversations, seem uninterested in their. Yeah, Sharika, you have something to say?
Yeah, I think, Shruti, you're very fast. I'm not able to take any notes. I don't know about others, but
Okay, okay. I'll go a bit slow, surely.
yeah,
So,
I'm sorry to say, but it's like more like of hearing an essay kind of a thing. Please, can you be a bit? slow so that we understand?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So, as I was saying, emotional distance in a relationship, when a partner is insecure, what do they feel? They feel like they cannot open up to their partner. They emotionally distance themselves because they fear that if they get emotionally involved, their feelings would get hurt, right? So that's why they start maintaining an emotional distance. Now, when you're not emotionally close to your partner, there are high chances that there will be physical distance as well. Even that hampers the relationship. So the insecure partner may have low sense of self-worth, like they have low self-esteem, which makes them feel that they are not good enough, which is why they find it difficult to show their true selves to their partners. So that is emotional distance that happens. Next up, we have jealousy. Yeah, Bhuvi.
Ma'am, is it about other relationships also, or is it only for romantic relationships? I mean,
Bhuvi is
this.
about romantic relationships, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on, jealousy. So, yeah, Monica, you have to say something? Okay. So, yeah, jealousy. It starts with a thought that pops up in your head, jealousy. It starts off like that. And it slowly turns into a negative feeling. Yeah, Monica, did you have to say something?
Am I audible? Hello?
Yeah, you're not that audible. Could you speak up?
Okay. So, actually, I wanted to know, is the insecurity just because of low self-esteem of the person who is insecure, also because the person is, I mean, the person has self-esteem, but then because of past experiences, the person is insecure.
Yeah, so we'll be covering that later on. And as people have mentioned that we have insecurities in other relationship as well, I totally agree. We have a lot of insecurities in different aspects of our life, but this particular workshop would be focusing on romantic relationships, and these are the signs which you can find in your relationship. Great. So moving on, as I was saying, so jealousy is basically it starts with a thought that pops up in your head, and it slowly turns into a negative feeling, and it kind of takes over your mind. So you have questions like, what if my partner leaves me for someone else? What would happen then? Would I be good enough for them? So these are the questions that run through your mind when you're jealous. So researchers characterize jealousy as a defense feeling that develops in reaction to any kind of perceived threat to your relationship. When you feel that your relationship is at stake or a third person would be hampering your relationship, you feel jealous, right? So, as children, even we would get jealous if some other child got too close to our parents, right? However, as adults, we cannot let jealousy hamper our connections. We must investigate and address it with caution, right? So, unfortunately, many jealousy motivated acts are often damaging and drive a person's partner further away. Like you feel like you're jealous and possessive of your partner, so your partner would get close to you, but that does the opposite of it. Now, it also becomes confusing in a relationship. So, on the one hand, we don't want to feel jealous in a relationship. We want to feel secure, obviously. On the other hand, we also consider jealousy to be a sign of love and protection. Like someone mentioned, possessiveness. So, although it might look like affection at the start, it has the potential of turning into a harmful ordeal for the relationship. Like everyone might get a bit jealous in the relationships, but when it goes beyond a point where you can only think about that particular factor, when you cannot see anything else, it becomes a huge problem for the relationship. Now, coming to low self esteem, as I guess Monica was mentioning, low self esteem, it is one of the root causes as well as a sign of insecurity in a relationship. So, individuals with low self esteem believe they are unworthy of love and acceptance. They limit their capacity to trust and feel secure in a relationships. So, if your own fears are preventing you from feeling totally secure in the relationship, you may begin to overanalyze and imagine the worst case scenario with your partner. Like for instance, if your partner is out and you drop them a text, and they do not reply for a number of hours, like 2 3 hours have went by and they have not replied, you start thinking, okay, there is a problem maybe. You assume that they haven't replied because either they are mad at you, or you did something wrong, or there is something wrong with you, right? So, childhood trauma, family conflicts, negative past relationships, like any negative comments by your past relationship, like past partners, could maybe affect your self esteem, which is showing in this relationship. You're projecting it in this relationship, right? Next is feeling isolated. So it is very similar to emotional distance that I mentioned earlier. So picture this: you are in a relationship, but instead of feeling connected and supported, there's this growing emotional gap between you. So insecurity can cause one partner to withdraw, avoiding any deep conversations and keeping their feelings to themselves in a way. Now, this isolation doesn't only affect emotional intimacy, it can also lead to physical distance, right? Okay. So, lastly, these are the last three signs that I'll be talking about. So, insecure people typically try to control their partner's decisions, behaviors, and interactions. They don't do it to control that person in general, but they do it to feel secure. They feel like if I do not allow my partner to go onto social media, they won't see other people, and I would feel more secure, right? So this is just an example of how controlling behavior works. They might not let their partner go out of the house or meet other people because they feel insecure. They feel that their partner might abandon them. So this is what happens. So when one partner exhibits controlling behavior, it's usually a sign that they have this fear of feeling inadequate in the relationship, or this behavior stems from a need to manage their environment. They want to control those inner fears and that uncertainty. It is basically like a defense mechanism. They do it to make themselves feel better. So it's not really about the specifics of what is being controlled, but about trying to manage the anxiety or the self doubt that the controlling partner feels. Next is overly dependent on partner. So who doesn't want emotional support? It is like a big part of all the relationships that we have. As humans, it is one of our basic needs. But what happens when we go a bit overboard? It is natural to depend on your partner sometimes or demand support from your partner, emotional support. But when you do it too often, it becomes emotional dependence, which is technically not fair to the partner. People who tend to be dependent on their partner find it difficult to be emotionally or physically away from their partner. So as soon as they see that their partner is not around them, and their partner is not talking to them a lot, they start feeling like their partner is moving away from them, or that they're drifting apart emotionally, right? Also, even if they are in a relationship which is not good for them, they continue to be in that because they have a fear of being alone. So they tend to be submissive in the relationship. Now, last is doubting the partner. So, many of the signs that we just talked about include this habit of doubting one's partner. Doubts in a relationship can sometimes be an act of self sabotage. Like, if you do have a fear of intimacy or commitment, doubts can be interpreted as a way of pushing your partner away so that you don't get hurt. So you try to find what they're doing wrong. You doubt their actions. So even if they're doing something good for you, you doubt their intentions of doing it. For example, you might doubt your partner truly loves you if in the past you dated emotionally unavailable partners. And you might doubt if they are being honest because your previous partner maybe cheated on you. So this is what happens. So to better understand if we can recognize these signs, I have a few questions for you all. Suppose your partner frequently seeks reassurance about their attractiveness or worthiness. What might this behavior indicate? Does it indicate low self esteem, a healthy need for validation, or a sign of strong emotional connection? What would you say? Yeah, Vivek.
First one.
Great. Absolutely. Thank you for answering. Next is your partner constantly checks your phone or social media without your permission. What might be the underlying issue here? Concern for your well being, mistrust in the relationship, or curiosity about your social life? Absolutely. Yeah, Prachi.
Ma'am, second.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for answering. Now, we'll go over the attachment styles in a relationship, right? So, here we have attachment styles. So, if I put it in simple terms, it is just the behaviors or patterns that we carry in a relationship, the way we behave or the way we are attached to our partner, right? There are typically four types of attachment styles. One is could be that person's history is suspicious. Yeah, that could be one of the reasons, Sukanya. So, there are typically four types. There is secure attachment style, there is anxious, another is avoidant, and then there's disorganized. So, the first is secure, the other three that I mentioned are insecure attachment style. Now, what does insecure attachment style mean exactly? An insecure attachment style is when you often feel anxious or unsure about your relationships. So it leads to very a lot of difficulties and difficulty in trusting as well as in connecting with your partner. So these are the insecure attachment style. The first one that we would be talking about here is anxious attachment. Now, there are certain traits I have mentioned of anxious attachment style here, and we'll understand them one by one. The first trait that is mentioned here is threatened by partners' interactions with others. Now, what does this trait look like? As I've mentioned the examples here, I can't help but feel like you enjoy their company more than mine. Or you could say, like, I feel like I'm not as important to you when you're with other people. So, when an insecure partner with an anxious attachment style says this, they feel uneasy about their partner talking to somebody else or spending time with somebody else. It's because they are worried that their partner might find someone else more appealing or important, right? Next is we have over analyzing partner's actions. When someone with an anxious attachment style over analyzes their partner's actions, they obsess over every little detail, fearing it might signal problems or disinterest. It can look like this. I can't stop thinking about why you didn't text me back immediately. Did I do something wrong? Or when you're late, I start imagining the worst, like you're avoiding me or do not want to see me. Now, I have a question for you all. Before that, this is what this constant worry comes from a deep fear of rejection and a need for frequent reassurance. So, I would like to ask from you all, what insecurity do you think is depicted here? What can you see? What kind of insecurity can you sense in these two traits? Would someone like to answer? Yeah, Monica, it's mentioned on the screen. Threatened by partners' interactions with others and over analyzing partners' actions. So, what does this person fear? Absolutely, Himanshi. Abandonment issues. Yeah, Angeline, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so it's lack of trust and need for constant reassurance.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. So, the insecurity depicted by this trait is fear of abandonment or fear of rejection. So the partner is anxious that their the insecure partner is anxious that their partner would prefer someone else over them. They have a worry that if my partner is not replying or not, if they are late, they start thinking that the partner is not interested in them. And they reflect a constant anxiety about not being valued or loved enough. This is the common insecurity that we can notice here. Other traits of anxious attachment style. So, one is being overly clingy. What does this mean? So being overly clingy is a trait where someone constantly needs to be close to their partner and they get anxious when they're apart. So they might text or call a lot. They might always want to spend time together and need frequent reassurance that everything is okay. They might say things like, I can't stand being apart from you for even a short time. It feels like we're drifting apart. Or I feel like I need your constant attention to know you still care. Now, we also discussed constant reassurance as a sign of insecurity a few minutes ago. This is when someone frequently seeks validation from their partner. As Angeline mentioned, I guess constant reassurance. They want to feel secure in the relationship. So they constantly ask for reassurance. How can they do that? They can say things like, when you don't compliment me constantly, I start thinking you find others more attractive. Or Are you upset with me? I feel like you are upset with me. So when you say these things, when they're constantly asking for reassurance, they have a fear of being abandoned or the fear of not being valued enough in the relationship, which is why they want to hear it from their partner again and again. Last is fear of abandonment, which in itself is an insecurity that we discussed in the previous slide. So, this is when someone is always worried that their partner might leave them for any reason at all, for another person, or for any reason or issue that they have in the relationship itself. So, they might think if we argue, I think it means you're going to break up with me. Or when you don't text back quickly, I fear you have lost interest and will leave me. Now, what are the insecurities that you notice here in these traits? Could someone answer? Yeah, Viksha, would you like to say something?
Yeah, this could be because of low self-esteem also, because
Yeah,
they don't think they are worthy enough for, them staying loyal to you.
absolutely, absolutely. So, do you all notice a pattern here in anxious attachment style, a pattern in the insecurities? Can you understand the common insecurity that is present in this anxious attachment style? Would someone like to answer? Yeah, Vasundhara.
I think it's fear of abandonment only.
Absolutely, absolutely. So people with this attachment style, they often worry that their partner may not be as committed or as invested as they are. Yes, that person would leave you. Absolutely, you're all absolutely right. So this attachment style typically stems from early experiences where they did not get consistent support or care, be it from their parents, be it from their partners. Since they have always observed that kind of relationship, they feel like they have a fear of not being valued enough, that they're not loved enough. Yeah, someone wanted to say something, someone had raised their hand.
I just wanted to ask, like, are these fears or these insecurities are always wrong, or it is like kind of this should be there to a certain extent?
So so what happens is any relationship at all, especially when it's a new relationship, people are bound to have insecurities, they're bound to have fear, right? It gets till a point, it's okay, it's absolutely human, it's absolutely natural. But when it is left unchecked, when you do not work on these insecurities or you do not communicate it to your partner, it becomes a huge problem. Because when you're keeping it to yourself, you're not dealing with it, right? So after a point of time when they're not dealt with, it becomes a problem. Yeah, Umesa?
Hello,
Yeah,
hello.
yeah, you can
Am
say.
I audible?
Absolutely, you are.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Where we should start thinking like our mate is not replying on time and he did not attend our calls, then we should start self-doubting. Please, can you tell me how to tackle with this situation?
Yeah, we'll absolutely be tackling with it. I will be explaining that further in the session. So I will let you know. Just
Okay,
there
thank
are
you.
other slides as well, so I'll cover that in the next few slides.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for answering. Coming to the next attachment style, avoidant attachment. So the traits of avoidant attachment, one of the traits is struggling to share feelings and thoughts. Now, avoidant is kind of the opposite of anxious attachment style in a way that whoever has an avoidant attachment style, they do not open up about their feelings, and they like an emotional distance, they prefer that. So the first is struggling to share feelings and thoughts. This means that someone with this style finds it challenging to open up about their emotions or personal experiences, right? They might keep their feelings to themselves, they might avoid deep conversations, and they might not share personal thoughts to their partners. They could say things like, I wish you would stop pushing me to share my thoughts. It's too much pressure. Or I get overwhelmed when you ask me to open up. Can't we just keep things simple? So these are the things that you would notice in your partner if they have an avoidant attachment style. Now, the second is avoiding emotional intimacy. It could look a lot like, why do we have to share every little detail about a day? It's absolutely unnecessary. Or, I need to deal with my problems on my own. I do not need your help. This means that someone with this style tends to steer clear of deep emotional connections and any kind of personal closeness. They might downplay the importance of sharing feelings, right? Now, you all tell me, what is the insecurity that you notice here in these traits? Fear of being seen? Yeah, totally. Avoidance. Okay. Yeah, Vasundhara, you want to say?
Maybe the
Avoidance.
fear of maybe the fear of looking stupid while asking for help
Okay,
or
okay,
sharing the problem.
okay, okay. What about Viksha?
The fear of being emotionally dependent on someone else, so they close off.
Correct. Yeah, Sharika?
Yeah, I think that thought of being vulnerable
Okay,
makes them to avoid be in avoidance style.
okay, understood. Yeah, there is another person who wants to share. Go ahead.
Like fear of like kind of being made fun of or being laughed at or judged by the person.
Yeah, okay. Great. Thank you for your answers, everyone. The insecurity here that we notice, as most of you mentioned, is fear of vulnerability. Like, you don't want to feel vulnerable in front of another person. Obviously, you mentioned that someone mentioned that fear of being laughed at, fear of feeling stupid. So, when you're vulnerable, there are chances of that happening. So, you fear that. You fear that vulnerability. Individuals with this trait often worry that opening up emotionally could lead to rejection or lead to being judged or feeling overwhelmed or being hurt, in fact. Thank you everyone for your answer. So, moving on. Next is avoiding long term commitment. So, people with this attachment style tend to avoid long term commitments. It kind of scares them. And how do we notice this? They could say things like, why do we need to plan a future right now? Let's just see where things go. Or why do we need to talk about settling down? We're still young. So they try to steer away from the conversations we talk about long-term commitments. Another trait is minimizing importance of relationship. They often downplay or dismiss the significance of the relationship to avoid feeling vulnerable or dependent. As someone mentioned that they fear dependence on another person. Some examples could be, why should we celebrate every little anniversary? It's just another day. Or it's just a relationship. Let's not complicate things by overthinking it. So they could say things like that. Now, let's dive into what it means to withdraw from a partner. That is one of the classic signs of an avoidant attachment style. Picture this: when things get a bit too close or intense in the relationship, someone with this attachment style might suddenly go quiet or they start pulling away. It's often because they feel overwhelmed by the emotional closeness and they fear that they would lose their independence or their personal space. So, what is the insecurity that you all could notice here in these traits that I mentioned? Would someone like to point it out, the insecurity that they could notice here? Yeah, Megha.
I think fear of them leaving us and also undervaluing ourselves as well at the same time.
Yes. Great. Thank you. Fear of losing independence. Yeah. Losing individuality. There are two more people who want to share something. Fear of getting hurt, fear of taking responsibility. You're all right.
Like
Um,
a worry, kind of a worry pattern that goes in mind, like in case suppose first point we see, like why
yeah,
should we celebrate each day like anniversary or any other, it's just another day. Like
yeah,
fear, like if we are celebrating and everything goes right, then it's okay, but what if it's things are not wrong? So these all celebration might create a attachment, or this all celebrations might create a memories which if the relationship doesn't go good, then what will happen, kind of worry patterns that are repeating every time.
totally. Um, there is
One thing
Sharika.
I one thing I'd like to ask on it,
Yeah,
like Why is it actually necessary to remember these days and every time celebrate it on relationship days? Why is it actually necessary, or is it just a theory? Like, I'm not knowing this actually.
It is not a theory as such, I would say, but it depends on the relationship, the partners as well. If it is important for one partner and the other partner completely steers clear of it and not sometimes being accommodating of that, it becomes difficult for the other partner to emotionally feel close to the partner. They might feel, if a partner has an anxious attachment style, they want to feel celebrated, they want to feel loved, they need constant reassurance. But if their partner does not celebrate little things, if they ignore it, then the anxious partner starts to think, okay, I might not mean to them as much as I used to think. So this is what happens. So it completely depends on the attachment styles you and your partner has. If you both decide that okay, it is not good for, like, it is not that important, then it works out well for you. But if one of the partner feels that no, it is important for me, then it becomes a bit of a problem when you do not do it.
So these all needs to be communicated and clarified.
Totally. That is the main thing about a relationship. Communication is very important here.
Okay.
Next, we have disorganized attachment style. Here, the partner has, unpredictable and intense emotional response. So, for instance, during an argument, they might become very angry. They might start reacting a lot. They are unable to control their frustration and they feel underappreciated. This unpredictability often stems from any kind of unresolved trauma. Maybe they had a dysfunctional family or any kind of conflicting feelings about attachment they have not dealt with, and this is how it shows by these unpredictable and intense emotional response. Similar to avoidant attachment style, they also fear emotional intimacy, so they have a deep fear of being hurt or rejected. So could someone point out the insecurity that they could notice in this attachment style? Yeah, someone raised their hand. Would you like to answer?
Yeah, I want to say that maybe here the partner feels that they are not emotionally available to their partner, the other partner, anxious one, and
Okay,
this makes them they are
okay,
not fulfilling their partner's needs, and maybe they will get rejected.
okay, okay. Sharika, you want to share something?
I only shared this.
Okay, okay. I guess Umesa is there.
Okay,
She has also raised her hand. Thank you for sharing, Sharika.
thank you.
The insecurity that is present here is a deep seated fear of being hurt or rejected. This fear often arises from any kind of past experiences or trauma or any inconsistency in caregiving. Like the parents weren't very supportive or the parents weren't that loving of a child. So this could happen to a child who has experienced that. Now, they may desperately, like, they want to feel close to their partner, but at the same time, they fear that emotional closeness. Next is hot and cold behavior. So this is at a moment they are very warm, they are very affectionate, and another moment they are distant and they reject. So after a deep conversation about the relationship, they shower their partner with affection and promises, but the next day they withdraw themselves emotionally. They avoid contact. They need alone time. They want to stay away from their partner. So they emotionally withdraw themselves from the partner. Now, another trait is being quick to anger or defensiveness is a common trait of a disorganized attachment style. This means that individuals with this attachment style often react with intense anger or defensiveness in response to perceived threats. So, if a partner comes up to them and says that I'm concerned about your health and your health habits, and they become pretty defensive, they start becoming very angry, they feel judged and misunderstood. If this happens frequently, it is a trait of a disorganized attachment style. Okay, now this is the last insecurity that we're covering here. So, what patterns or insecurities do you notice in this attachment style, in disorganized attachment style? Would anyone like to point out? Yeah, Vasundhara.
I think it's again like someone would see our matlab, it's like for the other person whom we are telling that this is the problem with you. They are thinking that they have got some problem and then soon it will become into a bigger issue and the partner will leave again. It will lead to abandonment.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for sharing that. These individuals with disorganized attachment style, they often struggle with conflicting feelings about intimacy due to past experiences of trauma or, as I mentioned, inconsistent caregiving. So their unpredictable and emotional responses are a way to protect themselves. They feel like they are under the threat of being hurt or abandoned. Their partner might leave them, their partner might hurt them. In order to protect themselves, they act out, right? So they have a fear of rejection as well. They're also not able to internal totally. Now that we have covered the attachment styles here, would you all want to point out what did you think your attachment style is and what is your partner's attachment style? You can use the chat box. You can raise your hand and speak up. Yeah, Nidhi.
So I think I have anxious attachment style and he has avoidant attachment style.
Yeah, I understand it is slightly challenging to deal with that because an anxious person wants emotional intimacy more than the avoidant one. Mine is and his
Yes, it's a very
disorder.
hard situation for me
Was
because I always want to communicate and he does not communicate at all.
absolutely. There are other people also who have raised. Yeah, Sharika.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, I there is not much difference between avoidant attachment and disorganized attachment. The features are almost similar, like fear of being rejected and fear of intimacy and being emotionally unavailable.
Yeah. So actually, the thing is with avoidant attachment style,
Mhm.
the characteristics are basically they tend to downplay the importance of the relationships. They value their independence and self sufficiency more. They want to distance themselves emotionally from others. But for a disorganized person, they may display contradictory behaviors. Like they would see comfort, but at the next moment, they don't want that comfort. So they want the warmth, and at a point, they just don't want it. They want to be away from the partner. So
Okay, like
disorganized is very
wanted gold. Yeah.
yeah, so disorganized is very unpredictable. It is, filled with confusion because the partner does not know when they want the warmth and when they want to be away from the partner. But in avoidant attachment style, the partner feels like they want to be emotionally distant from the avoidant attachment style partner feels like they want to be away from their partner emotionally because it makes them uncomfortable. The closeness makes them uncomfortable, or they just like to be independent and they don't want to be emotionally dependent on another person. I hope that
Okay.
clears your doubt.
Yeah. 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 Thank
Great.
you.
I can see that a lot of you mentioned your attachment style and your partner's attachment style, and I'm glad you could make that connection. Yeah, Himanshi, you want to say something?
Yeah, I would like to ask, is it possible that someone has disorganized attachment style earlier and then it turns into anxious attachment style?
It is absolutely possible. What happens is our situations, our relationships also impact our attachment styles that we have. Now, someone who has an insecure attachment style, they could change their attachment. It is not changing exactly. They learn new patterns and learn new behaviors because of their experiences. So it is absolutely possible, and it is even possible for an insecure partner to turn into an secure partner, right?
Okay, okay.
I hope that
So
clears
it
it.
will we call it a progress or just regression?
So when it is from insecure to secure, then it is progress. But when you're changing from one insecure attachment style to another insecure attachment style, I don't think it would be labeled as progress as such.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Great. So now we'll just explore the other causes of insecurity.
Ma'am, fear of intimacy will come in which category of this?
Fear of intimacy would be under avoidant attachment style. Okay. So we'll quickly go over the causes of insecurity in a relationship. One is past relationships and trauma. Like if we have bad past relationships, when if we had a partner who was maybe emotionally abusive, so we have that in us, we have that memories in us, we have that fear in us, and that could show in our current relationship. So these people who have had bad relationships in the past, they get emotional scars which they carry on to in their next, they carry it on to their next relationships. It becomes unresolved emotional trauma. If they do not deal with it, they still have that trauma. So our mind remembers these things, and as soon as we notice something even minutely similar in our new relationship, we start comparing it to our previous one. Suppose a previous relationship was full of tension, mistrust, or hurt. In that case, it might influence a person's perspective of themselves. Like if their partner constantly told them that you're not good enough, you are this, you're that, you're not beautiful. So even in their new relationship, they might still think that okay, my partner feels this way even if their partner does not. So this is what happens. Now second is comparison to others. Some people have a tendency to compare themselves to others, be it their physical appearance, their career success, or their financial status as well. This makes them feel inferior as compared to their partner. Some people also have the habit of comparing their relationship to the social media representation of the perfect couple, which isn't possible. So this leads to an unrealistic expectation, right? And dissatisfaction in their own relationship. Number three is parental infidelity. We as children look up to our parents, and our family is our primary environment. We learn everything from our family, it is a primary environment. And our parents relationship is the first relationship that we observe, that we get to watch as we grow up. So when one of the parents gets involved in infidelity, which simply means if they cheat on the other parent, it instills a fear in us that even my partner could cheat on me. And they also have this fear of trusting others. Number four is lack of communication. As I mentioned earlier, when somebody asked the question that even if people have insecurity, it is very important to deal with these insecurities, to communicate these insecurities. So when you do not do that, there are chances of misunderstanding developing. There are chances of people neglecting the emotional need of their other partner. So lack of transparency can breed suspicion, can lead to overthinking. Number fifth is low self esteem, as we have already covered. It is seen that comparing ourselves to others lowers a person's confidence. It could also be due to past relationships, as I mentioned, where their partners made them feel like they did not deserve love or were not worthy of it. Last one is fear of rejection. Fear of rejection is a huge cause of insecurity in relationships. Imagine constantly worrying if your partner really likes you or if they're going to leave you at any moment. It's exhausting, right? So this fear can make people feel on edge all the time about where they stand in the relationship. Over time, this fear can really strain the relationship. We have covered the causes. We'll quickly go over how insecurity affects people's mental health. So the individual mental health. First, let's acknowledge that relationships are a massive part of our lives. Think about it. Our partners often become our closest confidants, our biggest supporters, and the people we share our daily lives with. We invest a lot of time, emotion, and energy into these relationships. But what happens when insecurities start to creep in? These insecurities can stem from a variety of sources, as we had discussed the causes of these insecurities. So, when these insecurities are left unchecked, when they're not dealt with, they can cause significant mental and emotional distress. Let's break down some of the impacts that it has on an individual's mental health. First is chronic stress. Imagine constantly wondering if your partner truly loves you or if they might leave you. This persistent worry can cause chronic stress, which doesn't just stay in your head, it affects your entire body. You might find yourself feeling tense, having trouble sleeping, or even experience physical symptoms like headaches or stomach issues. Second is anxiety. So, do you ever find yourself overthinking every little detail in your relationship? Like analyzing why your partner didn't text back right away or what they meant by a certain comment that they made. Even if it was a general comment, you start to overthink about that. Right? So, this kind of, yeah, Vasundhara.
Ma'am, what if all these things that you are mentioning, these headache, anxiety, stress, depression, all these things, whatever you are mentioning, lack of sleep, overthinking, if it has become a general thing and you are not in a relationship, even then it happens, then what?
So, for that, you have to understand where is it coming from, Vasundhara. If you feel like you're in an insecure relationship and your insecurity is taking over your life, like it is a major issue in your life, this chronic stress, anxiety, depression, all of this can be because of that. So, we have to figure out
Maybe,
the root
ma'am,
cause.
I'm talking about when we are not in a relationship with anybody.
Then it could
Even
happen
then,
for various reasons. So, these are just a few impacts that insecurity can have on a person when it is
can
not
it
dealt.
also be coming from family?
Yeah, that's absolutely possible. For that's what I mentioned, right? It depends on
Okay.
person to person. If you're not in a relationship, it could be due to a lot of reasons. But this is something that we're covering for how your insecurity could, impact your mental
Yeah,
health.
right. Right, right.
Okay. Now, depression. So, insecurities can make you feel really down. Like when you're constantly doubting yourself and your relationship, it can lead to feelings of sadness and hopelessness. That you don't have any hope for your relationship, you don't have any hope for yourself. You might lose interest in activities that you used to enjoy because this particular insecurity just overtakes your life. And it's like a heavy weight that you feel you cannot shake off. Again, low self esteem, as I mentioned, that it can have a huge impact on your self confidence. It can make you think that you're not good enough. And this can go on for every aspect of your life, doesn't necessarily have to be your relationship only. Fifth is cognitive distortions. Have you ever caught yourself jumping to conclusions about your partner? Like your partner said one thing, but you just jump to conclusions, or you make assumptions that some about the worst case scenario that could happen. Has that happened with any of you? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, someone raised their hand.
Worst case scenario, as in like what?
For example, your partner did not talk to you in the morning and left for their work. So you start thinking, okay, they did not greet me before leaving for work. Something bad is happening. They're about to leave me. They're about to break up with me. So you just start thinking the worst. Even if it could simply be like, okay, they did not have the time and they were rushing for the meeting. So that is
So
worst
why,
case scenario.
so why does the mind every time create a worst case scenario instead of like seeing from both sides?
Yeah, so this is what a cognitive distortion is. So these are like automatic irrational thoughts that we have. And in simple terms in psychology, we call it thinking errors. Some people have a tendency of going towards the negative things, the irrational things. So this is what happens in cognitive distortions. This could happen when you're in an insecure relationship. For example, thinking they didn't say I love you today, so they must not love me anymore. So this is what absolutely someone mentioned ANTS. Yes. So this is a distorted way of thinking, and the example that I gave was catastrophizing, thinking of the worst scenario. There are a lot of more cognitive distortions that could happen, like all or nothing thinking, thinking in extremes, either this or that, or minimization. If something big happened, you just consider it okay. This was nothing. So this is what cognitive distortions are, which could happen when you're in an insecure relationship. Now, I would like to ask you all something. What purpose do you have set in mind? Do you want to learn to address your own insecurity or to learn to receive your partner's insecurity? Or maybe a little bit of both? Both. Great. So now we'll quickly go over how to address our own insecurity and receive our partner's insecurity. First, we'll go over how to address our own insecurity. Okay? First is identifying your triggers. Now, look within you to unearth the roots of your insecurities and start paving the way to overcome them. The most important thing, or the first stepping stone to a healthier relationship, is to identify your triggers. the root causes of your insecurity. The first and sometimes most difficult step in dealing with insecurities is to become more conscious of their existence. So, how do you do that? So, self reflection is very important here to understand your triggers. You can ask yourself questions like, in what situations do I feel insecure? Or how does that make me feel? When I feel insecure, what other emotions do I feel along with that? What kind of psychosomatic symptoms can I notice when I feel this way? By psychosomatic, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, you could have physical symptoms of your mental stressors. Like you could get a headache or something like that. So focus on that as well. Now, how did I respond to my insecurity? Is it linked to trust issues, self esteem issues, or a fear of abandonment? Where is it coming from? Or am I telling myself negative things about myself or my relationships? So, write all this down so that it gives you more and more clarity. It is really difficult to consciously face these negative feelings, but this will help you go a long way when it comes to dealing with such issues, right? Next is communicate your feelings. Once you have figured out the triggers, make sure you communicate that to your partner. Open and honest communication is like a remedy for an unhealthy relationship. It is a pathway to a better relationship. Yeah, Vasundhara?
What if communication is not what your partner is ready for? Maybe you understand and you are identifying and you are trying to communicate, but they are not on the receiving end. Then what?
So, at certain points, what happens is when you communicate your insecurities to your partner, you should also give them the space to process it. But if your partner is absolutely unwilling to communicate, I would suggest that seeking professional help here would help a lot. Going for couple counseling would help a lot. Because even if you have tried to communicate a lot of times and all the times your partner has dismissed whatever you have tried to communicate, it is best to seek professional help then, I would say. So, as I was
Okay.
saying, the more you try to keep your thoughts to yourself, the higher the chances of you making more assumptions and holding on to negative feelings. Be honest and vulnerable when communicating. Express your needs and insecurities. Express why you feel insecure and how would you like them to support you. Encourage small steps. So it becomes too much for the partner as well to understand these insecurities. Some partners, when they have, there could be times when they do not understand, when they do not listen. So it takes a lot of time to overcome those insecurities or open up to your partner. Give them the space to process it as well, what you are communicating. So it's not like you have communicated your feelings and you expect that the next day your partner would be completely changed and they would be totally understanding of your insecurities. Give them that time. There would be times when they do not understand. Make sure that you communicate that to them. And I will be telling about a way how you can communicate these insecurities, that is through using I statements. So, the one thing we need to be mindful of when communicating our insecurities to our partners is the usage of I statements. Now, what exactly are these I statements? I statements highlight the speaker's personal thoughts, feelings, and experiences. So it can improve communication, it can build trust. Sometimes what happens is when we start speaking to our partner, we start with, you did not do this, you did not do that, and I started feeling this way. Instead of using that approach, it could become very accusatory. So the partner starts defending themselves, that she's saying something bad about me, he's saying something bad about me, I'll just get defensive because they want to protect their image, they want to protect themselves. Instead of doing that, what will we do? I'll give you an example of how to communicate. For example, mention, I feel insecure when I don't hear positive feedback from you. It makes me doubt whether you appreciate me. I would really value hearing more about what you like about me or our relationship. Now, what did we do here? We are mentioning our problems, our feelings, and our thoughts without blaming them for that. We are being accountable for our feelings and our thoughts, and we are also mentioning what would we like them to do, right? So we started with how are we feeling, what made us feel that way. Like I am feeling insecure, and what made me feel that way? Because I did not hear any positive feedback from you. Next is so this is how you can communicate this with your partner. After communicating your feelings or thoughts to your partner, what else to do? So now, as I mentioned before, give your partner the space to respond. If your partner is responsive, responding to you, give them that space to actively listen to you and also actively listen to them. So it allows your partner to contemplate what you've said and how they want to reply. They may inquire further about your sentiments or reveal comparable feelings of their own. Listening to your partner can help each of you feel heard and valued. And you can focus on a solution instead of blaming them, instead of accusing them. You can together work on focusing on a solution, right? Lastly, work with your partner. If you want to improve your relationship and overcome your insecurities, you will need support, because you cannot deal with it completely alone. You would need support from your partner. So collaboratively come up with solutions to address the insecurity. This might involve setting new boundaries, establishing better communication practices, or finding ways to strengthen your relationship. And we'll talk about that as well. Coming to the receiving part of it, how to receive insecurities in a relationship. If you are a partner who has an insecure partner, if you're a person who has an insecure partner, this is what you should be doing to help them overcome those insecurities. You first have to understand that they are going through something really difficult and they are at a very vulnerable space. They are feeling very vulnerable when they come up to you and they talk about their insecurities. So it is good to approach it very sensibly. Encourage your partner to openly communicate what they are feeling. Help them identify what the issue is, what the insecurity is, where is it coming from. Ask them questions like, you mentioned you have been feeling insecure lately. Would you like to share what feelings or thoughts you have been experiencing? So try to make them to open up. Next is, when they do open up about their issues, make sure to pay attention and actively listen to them. Empathize with what they are saying and they are trying to convey. Listen to them without interrupting and try not to be defensive, because it is possible that sometimes a partner might point out that because of this reason, because of this all reason, I'm feeling insecure. And you might get defensive that I did not mean to do it. I just did it by accident or anything at all. Next is healthy communication. Be honest and open with your partner and be willing to hear their concerns. Avoid accusing, name calling, and other types of communication that are harmful or damaging. Ensure that communication is two way, with both parties actively contributing to the discussion and feeling comfortable expressing their emotions and concerns. Listen to their perspective as well. Avoid making any assumptions and ask more questions. Try to understand where they are coming from. Umesh, I understand that it becomes very difficult when your partner is not putting in the same efforts. I will be taking all the questions at the very end. Express to your partner that you are there for them and are willing to help them work on these issues. Give them the reassurance that you love them and are committed to your relationship. Try to compliment them often and give them affirmations like, I appreciate you just as you are and I value everything you bring to to our relationship. Or I'm committed to being patient and understanding as we work on this together. Next is create healthy boundaries. It requires self reflection. Like when you're helping an insecure partner, it becomes difficult for you as well. So, in the process, build boundaries, create boundaries that there are certain things that I'm willing to do to help you out, but there are certain things that I won't be able to do because it is impacting my mental health. If your partner needs reassurance, give them the reassurance, but when you feel that you need to take a break and you cannot do that for them, communicate that with them. And also appreciate that if they are respecting your boundaries, if they are helping you maintain that boundaries, tell them that I really appreciate you understanding my need for personal time. It makes a huge difference for me. Be mindful of your own behavior as well. Focus on the actions that could hurt your partner's insecurity more or hurt their sentiments more. Focus on your body language as well. Like when your partner is communicating to you, try not to look disinterested. Don't just fold your arms and sitting back, or if you're rolling your eyes. So it makes the partner feel more insecure. The final thing that both the partners can do, the insecure partner and the other partner as well, is to spend quality time together. One of the most basic yet impactful ways of strengthening your relationship. Yeah, someone had to say something.
Quality time is like only communication is there in quality time
No, I'll be
because
talking about.
here so many points is written, so all these points include only communication. If the communication is not good, all these points become invalid.
So communication is a very important factor here, but as I mentioned, offering support as well. So communication is a very important aspect of a relationship. Even if you are, even if one person has an insecurity, communication itself can have a huge impact on how you deal with it, and it can turn an unhealthy relationship into a healthy one. If you're very open with your communication and if you're very honest with your communication, it helps a lot. But here you're also observing your own behavior, you're creating boundaries for yourself as well. And spending quality time is not restricted to just communicating, there are other things as well in this. I hope that clears your doubt.
Yeah, yeah.
So, in spending quality time together, find ways to do something meaningful with your partner. You can cook together, you can find a hobby together. If you both like to play badminton, you can take out some time for. Yeah, Gayatri?
I wanted to ask something that
Yeah,
that person was not talking to me about his feelings, but when my friend talked
yeah.
to him, he was open about the feelings. Like he openly communicated with her, and he avoided that talking with me. So
So, Gayatri, what could happen is, as I mentioned earlier, that people could fear emotional intimacy. So, if your partner is very close to you and they are very emotionally involved with you, it could become very difficult for them because they have this fear that if they open up, you might leave them. If they open up about their issue, you would judge them. So, that is very much possible in a relationship, which is why your partner would not have felt very comfortable sharing it with you. But what you can do instead is you can make them feel, you can give them the reassurance that I understand it becomes very challenging to open up about these things. But if you just give me the time to understand, if you just try to open up with me, we'll just go gradually. So if you can provide that space for your partner, that non-judgmental space, they might it might become easier for them to open up to you. I hope that clears it out. Now,
yes,
as I
thank you
was
so much.
focusing on the spending quality time together, so quality time can increase physical as well as emotional intimacy between partners. You have to work around your schedule, find a time which suits both of you, and it should be an uninterrupted time where you both just focus on each other and nothing else. Develop small rituals, like every night you can have this ritual where you share one positive thing that happened in your day. Both of you can share one positive thing that happened with you, or a regular weekend outing. So these can provide comfort and a sense of stability as well. Next is how you can deal with it by yourself, like individually, what you can do for your insecurity. First is, as I mentioned, if you have to identify your triggers, you have to write things down. It gives you a lot of clarity. So journaling is a very good way to do that. Next is challenge negative thoughts. It is very natural for us to have negative thoughts. Our brain tries to protect ourselves from negative feelings by in a way preparing us for the worst. We have to realize what is just limited to our thoughts and what is the reality. Like it, we can think negatively, but we have to understand that is it the reality or is it just my thoughts? For example, you might think that your partner is interested in someone else when you see them interacting with one of their colleagues. So you might start thinking that you cannot trust them or that they are going to leave you. At this point, when you have these negative thoughts, just pause. Pause for a moment, take a few minutes for yourself, take a deep breath, and shift your focus to finding evidence for that. Evidence for your thoughts. Has my partner ever broken my trust in this way? Do they share? Yeah, Vasundhara?
Ma'am, is it possible for someone to heal their negative thoughts and their style of attachment? When they know that their partner is not going to, if they are not going to cooperate also, and they are not going to take up any uh, counseling also. So, is it possible that you, on your own behalf, can do things to heal your negative thoughts?
So, dealing with your own negative thoughts is something that you can do as an individual. But if you want to make the relationship work where a partner is not investing any time and efforts, it becomes very difficult to stay in that relationship and manage that. Obviously, as I mentioned, you also mentioned that they won't go for counseling. So, it becomes
Yes.
very difficult for you as a person to deal with that. If the other
Yeah,
person,
it does. But
yeah.
then you know that you sometimes it is like you are stuck somewhere when you where you cannot leave also. So in that cases, can is it possible that we can on our own help and
Um,
manage our negative thoughts?
Vasundhara, would it be okay if I just answer your question at the end of the presentation? I'll just
Yeah,
wrap up
sure,
the slides and then I'll come back to whatever you asked.
sure.
Yeah, thank you. So, you have to question these thoughts, that is this the reality or are these just my thoughts? Am I just thinking this or this actually happened? So, by doing this, you are questioning your own thoughts, you're challenging your own negative thoughts, and you're training yourself to deal with those negative thoughts. So, next is what is a, yeah. Now, what is a better way to deal with insecurities than self love or self compassion? Each and every one of us has flaws. So it is just a matter of how we perceive these flaws. People who have insecurities tend to over highlight their flaws or they think negatively about themselves. And self love is the way to deal with this. Yeah, Bhuvi?
Ma'am, can I leave this session right now? Because
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, totally, totally. Thank you for joining, Bhuvi. Thank you for staying. So, be
okay.
kind to yourself, be compassionate to yourself as you would be towards a friend. Give yourself the space to make mistakes and give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Now, accepting oneself as one is, it does not mean that you do not put in efforts to improve yourself and you do not work on yourself. It simply means that you accept where you currently stand in your life and then you start working on yourself or improving yourself if you feel like you need that improvement. For this, practice positive self talk. Tell yourself, my worth is not determined by others' opinions. I am proud of who I am and what I have achieved. I am making progress even if it's not always visible. So, if it helps, put it up as a poster in your room. So, do anything that be kind to yourself, be compassionate. Next is setting healthy boundaries. It's like crafting a personalized roadmap to better manage your insecurities. You have to tell them, when you set these boundaries, you are essentially saying this is how I need to be treated to feel good about myself. For instance, if you find yourself overwhelmed or insecure because you're constantly saying yes to everything, establishing boundaries by prioritizing your time and energy can be a game changer. It allows you to carve out space for self care, giving you the chance to recharge and focus on what truly matters to you. So they empower you to communicate your needs clearly. You take control of your environment, and it just gives you that space to be confident and be yourself. This is the last thing that we have to cover today. These are trust building exercises that you can try out with your partner. So these are certain activities which helps build trust. Now, building trust with your partner helps with insecurities by creating a solid foundation of reliability and openness. When trust is strong, you feel more secure and valued in the relationship. It reduces any kind of doubts and fears. The first activity that you can try out is eye gazing. Now, what is eye gazing? Find a comfortable and quiet space where you both can sit facing each other without any distractions. Now, start by sitting close enough that you can maintain eye contact without straining your eyes. Gently look into each other's eyes. Aim for a relaxed and non judgmental gaze, maintaining eye contact for a few seconds to a minute at a time. Not like you have to do it for 5 minutes, few seconds, 30 seconds to a minute. Now, incorporate this into your daily or weekly routine because this helps build connection. Eye gazing fosters a deep emotional connection by allowing partners to engage in non-verbal communication. We can also non-verbally communicate what we're feeling, right? So eye gazing helps with that. It promotes empathy. Empathy. It makes you feel more connected and attuned to your partner. Next is in and out date nights. So they are a very fun and flexible way to keep your relationship fresh and engaging. The idea is to balance your date nights between in, which means at home, and outside the home date nights. So for in date nights, what you can do is you can plan out, you can watch movies together, or you can plan a game night, you can cook together. And for out date nights, you can go for dinner, picnic, or any kind of adventure sports. The goal is to create regular rituals like a weekly date night or a daily check in. It helps maintain connection and strengthen your bond. This provides opportunities for consistent engagement and reaffirms commitment. It reinforces trust. Next is share a personal information. Share personal stories, fears, and aspirations with each other. Talk about something you have never talked to them about. Share your thoughts and feelings openly, any worries that you have, anything that comes to your mind, and encourage your partner to do the same. Emotional intimacy is built through this. And this emotional intimacy deepens your connection and enhances trust by showing vulnerability and mutual understanding. You're trying to be vulnerable with your partner. It shows to them that okay, we are building a connection. We are being emotionally intimate. Last activity that we have here on is trust talk. So it is like a communication approach used to build and reinforce trust within a relationship. You openly discuss about trust and trust issues. It focuses on creating a safe space and environment where partners can express their feelings, concerns, and needs without any judgment. So you engage in meaningful conversations about your lives and futures together. You ask them, what do you think trust is for you? How can I help you build that trust more? And are there specific ways you would like me to show you that I'm committed to this relationship and I'm committed to building trust with you? So these are some questions that you can have to have a meaningful trust talk with your partner. We have almost come to the end of the presentation. I'll just tell you the challenges that one could face if they are trying to deal with their insecurity on their own or with their partner. Many of you mentioned that your partners might not listen to you when you try to communicate with them. So that is a huge challenge which could happen, and it might require sort of a professional assistance, right? It is very difficult to deal with our insecurities, be it individually or as partners. One faces certain challenges which requires them to seek professional help. So consistency is one thing. Consistently applying new behaviors and coping mechanisms can be difficult, especially if old habits and thought patterns are deeply ingrained. So it could become difficult to be consistent. And in moments of high emotion, when you are having an argument and you are reacting emotionally, it is difficult to remember all the strategies that I've told you. It sometimes becomes very difficult to do that. Now, about a partner's response. A partner's response or behaviors might not always be supportive or understanding, which can make it even harder to stick to new approaches. Next is there is difficulty to cope alone with it. You need much more support. Sometimes what happens when we are trying to deal with such insecurities, we can develop certain negative coping mechanism because it becomes frustrating for us. When we have a partner who does not respond properly, we might go for negative coping mechanism to deal with this. And to deal with the negative coping mechanism, it becomes essential to reach out for professional help. And last is internal resistance. Deep-seated insecurities, they often come with these resistance. Doubts and fears can make it difficult to fully embrace and trust the new strategies. So, when you do face challenges, when it comes to working on our vulnerabilities, it could become very difficult. But remember that healing is a journey, and this path demands patience as well as kindness. Be kind to yourself, even if there are days when you do not try to work on your insecurity because you're mentally exhausted. It is absolutely all right. It is okay if you cannot work on it every single day. It is better to make gradual progress with a bit of ups and downs. If you feel that you would benefit from professional help, you can reach out to us at MindTribe for any kind of help that you want. You can take a picture of this particular slide so that you have all the information. And by this, we have come to the end of our presentation. Thank you, everyone, for joining and staying and being very interactive in this entire workshop. And if you have any questions, you can please feel free to ask all of that.
Very well presented. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharika. Thank you.
Thank you for the session. It was very wonderful, like giving so much of awareness and insights. I'd
Thank you
like
so
to
much.
ask one
Yeah.
question. Like, suppose any communication has happened or any event has happened which leads to like self-questioning, or maybe though it comes into self-reflection. So, what does this communication mean? And when, because our mind automatically gives its own meaning by itself. So,
Hmm.
how to clarify that meaning, ki whether I have come to a right understanding of a point or not?
Does your question mean how do I understand if I have understood my partner's problems properly or not? If it has been communicated to me well enough or not?
Yeah, suppose I made a statement and suppose I hear a statement, and does that statement give the actual meaning it should be, or what my mind has imagined and created the meaning? What is right? What is right or wrong? Like, how should I
Yeah.
differentiate with that?
Could I know your name, please?
Kush, Kush
Kush.
Agarwal.
So, Kush, what happens is when you're interacting with your partner and they come up to you and say that, okay, these are the insecurities that I'm facing, it is natural that sometimes there could be certain misunderstandings because they are saying one thing and you understand a different thing altogether. That happens, that is very natural. In this case, always ask clarifying questions to your partner, that can you help me understand what you mean by that? Do you think I understood it properly? So repeat what they said to them or repeat what you have understood and ask them, am I right? Am I understanding it right? So this is how you can better know if you have understood their part of the communication or not. And this also strengthens your communication with your partner. Was that
Okay, okay. Means it's to re-clarify the same, like, can you help me understand what do you mean by this?
yeah? So you can always ask them questions if you have understood their sentiments properly or not and their emotions properly or not. So that
Or like
clarifying
I
questions always help.
or like I have understood this, so does it like actually tally with your understanding?
Yeah, so you can say that I understand that you feel insecure about Y reason because of Z. So, is there more to it? Did I understand this? Did I get it right? Or is there something that I'm missing out on? This is what you can ask your partner to better your communication, improve your communication with them. I hope that was clear.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Okay. So, next is Vivek. Yeah, Vivek, what do you have to ask?
So, what advice would you give to someone who is not yet into relationship and don't get because they have seen our friends that who the relationship does not last, but they believe that they want relationship to last lifelong. So, what advice you'll give? Because they have secure insecurity of losing that. He or she believe that there is only one someone only one is there for her
Okay.
for him. So it's so what advice you'll give basically?
So my advice would be to first recognize how these past whatever you have experienced, be it your friend's relationship, how is that shaped your views on relationships? Because you have seen unhealthy relationships, or because you have seen that the relationships end, that has kind of influenced how you think about relationships in general. So pinpoint what is bothering you. What is bothering me? That the other person might leave me, or that there is some kind of betrayal. So educate yourself on that. Plus understand that their relationship is not your relationship. Their life is not your life. What you would have with a person is determined by you and the person you would be in a relationship with. So do not generalize your friend's relationship as your own. So
Yes,
this.
but there are also past experiences. Like what my point is, we should invest our time and understand people and make connect with someone who will last long, right? It does
Yeah.
not make a sense to make a connection or make efforts or have a attachment with someone who won't stay, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
what I have concluded is I might be wrong, but what I have concluded is you should make a relationship or invest a lot of it or a lot of your energy and your emotions when you know it is very certain that it would last long, because yeah, it would you'll get what you want basically. It's like that. And if you won't get, so it is disappointment only at the end of the day. It's like that, what I think. So what I prefer is, generally I would say I can say my point only, ki I believe in relationship after marriage. Like you would be committed, right? In Indian context, so definitely she'll be till your whole life, right? So you can invest in her, and you'll be because I have insecurity of losing someone.
Okay.
Matlab, they if she didn't stay with me, right? So it does not make any sense to, right? You're understanding, make efforts, right? So it's like
Yeah.
that. I might be wrong. It's not that he everyone is not same, but what I
Yeah.
think is this. So what
Since
do
you
you advise to someone like me? Sorry to disturb.
Yeah, Vivek. No, no, you're not disturbing. So, since you have had bad experiences in the past, it is very natural for you to feel that okay, this relationship won't last, or if I invest into this relationship, this it would end in this way. So, as I said, the first step is you have to, as I mentioned in the PPT as well, challenge your negative thoughts. If you're having this thought before getting into a relationship that this will end, somewhere in our mind, we ourselves would try to sabotage that relationship. We will find ways, we will find fights, and something like that would happen that would sabotage that relationship or end that relationship. So first change your these negative thoughts that you have into positive. It is a very it takes a lot of time, it is a very tedious thing to do, because these negative thinking patterns that you have developed that over a very long period of time. So it is very difficult to change that to positive as well. Plus, in any relationship that you get into, take things slow. Communicate with your partner about your fears from the very start. Be very open about these things. Also, I would say that it would benefit if you work on your own self confidence as well, because that helps a lot in a relationship. When you're confident in yourself, when you know how to be kind to yourself, and give yourself the space to make mistakes, that helps a lot in a relationship. And if you feel like you need further assistance with dealing with this, then obviously you can reach out to me or reach out to anyone on the website, and then we can have a session together for that. I hope that clears your doubt.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Sukanya.
Hi, Shruti. Thank you for
Hello.
this session. It was really helpful. Now, I would like to make this a little more relatable to the situation we are, living in currently. All the
Okay.
points that you mentioned that we have to work on and reflect on ourselves. Now,
Yeah.
I want to use this with something which we are actually seeing in the current situation as well, the dating scenario. Basically, I mean, this fear of the person leaving has gotten real nowadays because people prefer to check out multiple options available through online dating. Um I mean, one side we have an anxiety and we are working on it, but on the other side, this is also a very real scenario where people, just it's easier for them to leave, and that is when, the fears become real. So, and sometimes people don't keep their word. Some people lie or say the truth in the same way, so well that you can't make out really if they are lying or were they really saying the truth. So basically, what I'm trying to understand is, based on the difficult dating scenario at present, how do we use all the good tips that you gave us of working on ourselves and actually identifying, keeping ourselves safe, basically?
Okay, so from what I understood, you want to know how can we navigate our relationships in modern day times when infidelity has increased and people, there are a lot of cases where people cheat on their partners, right? Am I understanding you properly?
That is also true. Apart from monogamy, also, I mean, people have short attention spans now. They could be completely, it can be termed as love bombing, I guess, but people tend to be completely committed. Maybe if they really like someone, they are committed to them. They now
Yeah.
have a history of changing multiple partners, and maybe they find one and they then stick to them. But then that attention span remains for what, like 2, 3 months, and then again they start getting distant because uh, maybe the people they take them for granted, or they think array or options hai market mein, something like that. So
Okay.
one side we have this fear, like, okay, they might leave us maybe, but on the other hand that fear could be real also because of the multiple or such stress that people have, or multiple options that people nowadays have on online dating. So
Okay.
how do we effectively use all the good tips that you gave us on self-reflection, and also, somehow they get more in tune with the what is happening in, in the realistically, like in the world, what is happening? How do we tackle it? Like,
Okay. So, Kanya, one simple question that I would like to ask you, very simple. When you're
yeah.
in a relationship, not even just relationship, in general also, what do you think you can control in your life? What all things can you control?
Um, I can control my behavior. I cannot control the other person's behavior. And
Exactly. Totally right.
I,
Yeah. And
right. And I mean, that is very true. But I mean, on some level, you expect that you can trust your partner. One thing that, after seeing this situation, we might, it feels like this is a battlefield and you have to shield yourself and be ready that, oh, you can get hurt anytime. But
yeah,
on the other hand, somewhere you also feel like, I wish there could be something I could do about it.
yeah. Totally, it is very natural for you to feel that way. Uh, There is a reason why I asked you this question. As you mentioned, that in these current times, when it is so easy for people to leave each other because they have so many options, there is this trend going on that, okay, even if you are in a relationship, I have other options. Even in loving relationships, which have gone on for 20 years, maybe, there are people who indulge in infidelity. So that also happens. What I'm trying to tell you is that in any relationship, what you can do is control your own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. If you feel that the way your partner is behaving, the way your partner is treating you is not something that you like, and if you feel like that your partner is not trustworthy, first step is to communicate that to them, that I feel like this is the problem, all of this is a problem, and I would like us to work on that. Give your partner the time to work on it with you. If you notice a pattern of them not putting in any efforts, if you notice a pattern that they are constantly breaking your trust, I guess you have the answer right there, that what you have to do next. Because I don't think as a person, as an individual, you would want to invest your time in an unhealthy relationship which has not been very supportive of you. And in
Right,
this case, to help you deal with that unhealthy relationship, to help you deal with that trauma of that relationship, I would say that you should obviously reach out to help, be it me or anyone else, but that really helps.
right, understood.
Okay.
Understood. So ultimately, again, it's like a battlefield now, and you have to be like
Yeah, I
get ready
totally
to fight.
understand, Sukanya. I totally understand.
Okay, one last question. I was
Yeah.
just trying to understand what is usually the. I see some people who cannot move on from the relationships. Say maybe they were involved with someone, and then they, even if the relationship breaks, they cannot really move on from that person. May sometimes in an unhealthy way or sometimes in a healthy way because they really value them. And on the other hand, I can see some people who say in the beginning if they meet someone they unrealistically like someone a lot and then they maybe lose interest or they are afraid of commitment and then they switch partners very easily. They move on from one partner to another partner. They get involved deeply with them, emotionally with them, and again, then they just move on through partners, move on through humans very easily. I was trying to understand the psyche of such people. Like, how does that really happen?
Um, so, Kanya, I would say that there are a lot of people and they have different mentalities and different ways of thinking. So, that totally happens and it is natural or normal for them. And I know there is a lot to uncover. I can sense that you have a lot to talk about and a lot to uncover. I would really recommend that we can get on a session because uh, now I don't think I have a lot of time here to explain all of these things or uncover these things with you. But I would really like it if you could just uncover all these things in a session, if you feel like it. So whenever you feel like it or if
Sure,
you feel like it, we can have a session about this.
sure. Nitin. Thank you,
Okay.
Shruti. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you. Thank you for joining, Sukanya. Yeah, Gayatri, you had a question.
Actually, me and my partner